All right. Well, welcome back, everybody, to another podcast here with Chris and Crae McCracken. I think today's a good day it's getting cooler again here in north central PA. But today would be a good day to kind of highlight more topics that are more relevant to our time of the year. But I think walking the plots and everything, alfalfa's on top of our head to start. I think one of the big things I'd like to point out with it is kind of break down the different types of alfalfa. Alfalfa is not just alfalfa, especially on the conventional side. Yeah, I think if you want to start out.
Yeah,
maybe.
it's the time of the year to get out and especially if you're south of I-80, and at this point, I would say it's the time of the year to get out and actually scout your fields a little bit and see what kind of stands that you currently have. And things make some decisions in regards to if you haven't made them yet, make some decisions of what you're going to have to spruce up. Kind of what we talked about in the last podcast. It might be the time to get in there and actually spruce some things up, depending on what your stand looks like. We're noticing here we do a pile of research for ourselves and for some European companies and so forth here, and some of which they thought would winter over really well, and it isn't quite there. And some of the things that we weren't sure about look fantastic. So, we're above I-80 right here in Jersey Shore, Pennsylvania, but yet we're still probably another good week, maybe 2 weeks away from truly evaluating.
Things are just starting to green across the board.
But you get in the southern part of the state who just got snow yesterday. After being 80 degrees, a couple of days prior, it's just absolutely crazy.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, I think it's a good time to get out and actually see what your expectations are going to be if you do need to do any type of frost seeding and things. And then back to alfalfa, when the alfalfa's not alfalfa. Kind of what you were saying there. There's a lot of different options depending on what your needs are. Today with the farm economy where it's at and things, people obviously are looking for the lowest priced alfalfa. Yeah. It seems to be the biggest trend right now. And
isn't that a trend for everything this year?
Well, it seems to be this year. Yeah, it seems to be the trend. And truthfully, using some of the lower priced alfalfa by a good supplier is not necessarily a bad thing either. So especially if you're looking for short-term rotations and so forth.
Maybe kind of highlight what we mean by the different types too. We're kind of rattled down for the guys listening in. What's guys that come to you and just start the general question of, all right, I want alfalfa. What are the first questions you're asking? And kind of funnel it down.
No, we have. There's a lot of different options. Depending on what the situation is, and the questions that we're going to ask are: okay, are you adding grass to the alfalfa? Are you, what are your overall plans? And obviously, my favorite is adding grass to alfalfa to get the higher energy to go along with the alfalfa, and the combination works extremely well, especially with like your soft leaf tall fescues and things like that. So then if somebody wants to add grass, obviously now you're working with conventional alfalfa, right? Especially as a new seeding. And on the conventional side, it's not just saying, hey, I want just an inexpensive alfalfa, or I want the highest quality alfalfa you have, or I want this. It also has to do with the agronomics, the way that plant is developed. Is it a true taproot variety like most alfalfas are? Or are we looking at branch root, alfalfa, where that would fit in on some heavier grounds? We have a lot of heavy clay soils and things like that in north central Pennsylvania, New York State, things like that, to where your taproot varieties on a wet, cold winter are going to heat out, and break at the crown, and there's no regrowth at that point. So we use a branch root type, and then it'll still have a small taproot to it, but then it has that almost like a grassroots system
structure.
That holds that into place, and it handles those situations well, and it also handles higher traffic pretty well.
Yeah.
So if you have an area where you're going to it especially on heavier type of soils, right? So it kind of fits in with that. But if you're traveling over the heavy type of soils and creating the compaction. And things like that, where you're breaking those crowns off. Not a lot of times the branch roots are the better option. There's even a variety or two of some creeping root out there as well. Usually not quite as high yielding as what you're going to get from the branch roots, but still good quality alfalfa on top of that. And then there's potato leafhopper.
Leafhopper resistance.
Yep.
Yeah.
And where the leafhopper for us really comes in, it's usually there is still a yield drag using potato leafhopper resistant alfalfa. So you're typically compared to that what you're going to receive on the high yielding types like R42A3 from Forage First. You're going to be looking, about 85% of the yield is what you can expect in the leafhopper type
compared to a superior quality.
Exactly, and that's under the right conditions. Now, if the leafhopper does hit and things like that, usually the trend of that is, it usually doesn't pay to use the leafhopper variety compared to using just a conventional variety and using a pesticide on there to take care of those leafhoppers. Is usually pretty cost effective. But with that being said, organic guys don't have another option. And if you don't want to deal with spray and do all that stuff, that's your option. And for those of us who don't understand what leafhopper alfalfa is, what it really is, it's you have both your stems and the bottom part of your leaves will be a little more hairy, for no better terminology. So it has a little longer hairs on there where that leafhopper, which has a piercing nose that pierces into the plant, sucks the juices out of the plant, basically, can't get in there. The little hairs kind of stop it from getting in there. Yeah. That's really all potato leafhopper alfalfa really is. But they, it's still a good option for those guys, especially like I said, especially the organic guys, or if you don't want to mess with.
I think the organic side in general. Well, I guess before I even start into that conversation, maybe explain, just how small our alfalfa world is right now.
There's only a few players out there.
Yeah.
So you're only looking at about 3 true alfalfa companies that are providing the majority of the genetics. Or all the genetics that are available out there. So, and then when you're dealing with the traded alfalfa, there's a whole other aspect too. So if somebody says, okay, no, I want to use straight alfalfa. I want it simple. I want to be able to clean my fields, and I want Roundup Ready. Okay, well then we have the Roundup Ready option, that's what it's good for, right?
Yeah.
To basically clean fields. It's not a superior alfalfa overall compared to a lot of the conventionals that are out there and things like that, but it does give you that option.
Now, what about Harv Extra?
Harv Extra is a whole nother monster. So obviously, it also has
comes with a price.
And it has the Roundup trade in it also, right? So you can still use your glyphosate with that. The neat part with Harv Extra and there's some really good really good conventional, highly digestible conventional alfalfas out there. So I'm not saying you have to go the Harv Extra, but nothing's going to be higher quality than what the Harv Extra is going to be. And then where I see the Harv Extra fitting is if you stay under a typical 28-day rotation, where you're cutting intervals, you stay with a typical 28-day interval, you're just going to get about the same yields as what you would on the conventionals, but your quality level is
through the roof.
It's considerably better. But where most people are using it, and where I like to see it being used, is for those that want to get that extra yield and still have the high quality. You get an extra 10 days. That's a 20% increase in your yields, and just 10 more days of growth. And at that 10 days, you're still at the same quality, digestibility, and so forth of a standard alfalfa at 28 days.
28 days.
So you're going so basically, depending
it's a win-win.
It is,
no matter what.
Depending on your situation. And even if you want to keep it you want the higher quality, but you missed it because of rain and things like that, it gives you another week and a half that you can still get in there and have good quality alfalfa. Maybe not as good as it would have been at 28 days, but pretty darn good, overall.
I think most of the guys we see in our area anymore, they're Harv Extra guys, is the plain community. I don't know of too many guys there.
Yeah, there's a couple large dairies and things like that that are starting to a little bit, but most
guys did the whole trend.
They moved away from alfalfa
and,
altogether. But there are a number of decent, especially those that are raising hay for market and things like that.
Yeah.
They're utilizing it.
I think one topic we should highlight here would be to branch off of alfalfa, or with alfalfa, and legumes in general. Every so often we get a call in. A lot of times it's organic guys. We got to talk it through with them and that was my point I was trying to make before, is organic guys have one problem they're also having. It's seed corn. It's across the board, but it's the OMRI approval coating. It's becoming scarce in the market, and
it's hard to get.
It's very hard to get as a supplier. So that's one struggle that we have, but
the cost.
The cost.
So seed production for organics, it doesn't matter what it is. You're looking at a minimum of 30% increase in production cost. In some cases, some cases it can be considerably higher than that.
Yeah.
And then if if you do organic production, which is very, very little organic production done especially on the small seed side of things. But then you have, what rhizobia are you allowed to use? So you have to find something that's OMRI approved to be able to use that rhizobia. And then those that want the coating and have it pre-inoculated with the coating on it to give you better seed to soil content and things like that. Now you have the whole other challenge of finding the right coater that has the right glue to make it and has the approval from the OMRI.
I think that was kind of the point I was leaning into there. I think I'm not sure in the last podcast you kind of highlighted on the coating industry in general, with
typically
grasses and all of that. Well, our point on the coated with legumes, that 34% it's proven. In fact, I will even probably here in these future podcasts we can get out, it starts getting warmer here. We'll even show stands.
We typically see a stand improvement at a 34%.
34% coating.
As long as it's the right coating.
Yep, right. That's the key point. Is as long as you have the right backing with the rhizobia.
You got it. Yeah. So often today, the coating is a way of stretching a short seed supply.
Yeah.
So when you're doing that, it's to basically put clay around.
There's
the seed.
A lot of seed companies out there that are, and it's funny because on our end. The cool part, we have the umbrella company. We can kind of see the industry standards and kind of see what the industry's moving towards. And it's funny, they end up it seems every seed company that's out there ends up biting themselves and shooting themselves in the foot when they start highlighting, when you buy coated seed in general, you're getting fewer seeds in the bag. And yes, you're 100% right, but it's proven on the legumes at 34% across the board. Now, what we're talking
with the clovers, and it's
is the rhizobia matters more so when it comes to the legume side. Clovers and alfalfas. Yep. I shouldn't even just say legumes because it is a different ball game on the summer annuals. But yeah, and then they shoot themselves in the foot. And because a lot of times, the fun part is you track back. Well, that's what their supply is that year. They got a bunch of raw lots in, and they're out there trying to sell that stuff, so they talk down on it. Now, grasses, I think there can be a lot more improvements on the whole water-absorbing polymer stuff, but really what we've seen so far, it's clay. And that's kind of that's the line we draw as of right now. Now, there's some companies out there that are testing a lot of newer polymer water-absorbing polymers out there.
There's some very exciting things happening out there, and there's some good water-absorbing polymers out there, and they have their place. I always get nervous with them, when they started putting them on heavy on orchard grass and some of the other things. Well, that's all it takes is a good dew in the morning. Somebody leaving seed in their planter box.
Yeah.
They're
like
not
any
farmer. They're
ever.
not too impressed with anything at that point.
Yeah,
when it all bricks up on them. So. But I think there's definitely some of the new biology and things like that are being introduced are really, really exciting. So and we've seen a lot of it, and we would love to be able to provide, a coating that has all the attributes that we want to add to it. And the problem is it always becomes a pricing game. And then it's, your price against the other seed company, and you lose because it might cost you an extra 15 cents a pound or 20 cents a pound to have, a package put on where, nobody's willing to pay that difference or to understand the benefits of it.
Right.
What you saw today is some of the pictures that you showed
with
and without,
which
I mean, that's to me, that's what it's about.
Yeah, we work with Locust Ag, and honestly, the CFU counts they have on their biological products they're putting in there,
the use of that trichoderma and bacillus together and things that they have in their program.
They're not the bug in a jug company that we highlighted in our last podcast. They visually, I mean, you guys can see in this video here, but visually, hands down, and this year we're actually going to start extracting some more data out of doing their testing for them in the Northeast here. But man, they what a difference. And it's across the board, that trichoderma and the bacillus, and I mean, on any, they now have their products for every type of seed.
We're to a point now where that's just part of our treatment package for soybeans and cereal grains. And yes, it does add a little bit more, but with us doing our own production, we can usually keep our
There's not one trial so far in any scenario that we haven't seen an improvement. That goes from emergence. It goes to
quit telling the people what company they're getting it from. Everybody else will be jumping on it too.
But seriously, it's we really enjoy working with those guys. And we do a lot of testing for them, so it's they're see it firsthand. People. It's awesome. But I think
cool part of that, that company is just out of Cleveland.
Yeah, not far.
I'm heading out there next week for the NCAA Nationals.
Yeah, I want to see their lab.
I'm actually going to try to make time to pop in there and see since I've been there last.
Yeah.
So.
Down here in the plots walking it today, there's some cool season grasses. That's why I'm excited we launched this podcast and get things going, because I'm excited when it gets a little warmer out here to actually do podcasts down there to show these people that there's orchard grass isn't orchard grass. Right, we just said alfalfa's not alfalfa. Orchard grass isn't orchard grass. Tall fescue isn't tall fescue. There's not one out there that's just...
There's superior varieties for our area.
And every year
that's what we do.
It's getting better and better and better. We're testing a lot more products. I mean, don't get me wrong. There's, probably, I don't know what a number would be. We probably have 20, 21 different varieties of orchard grass down there. I'd say 3/4 of them I'm not jumping up and down crazy about, but that's the beauty of being able to test these stuff.
The cool part is we had a good challenging winter here, so we're going to see how they come through the winter. And they were just fall seeded, so we'll start learning a lot about those.
But man, like every year you think, oh man, we got something figured out on a variety, and then one exceeds it, and that's the beauty of having our brand and being able to get ahead of the game, and get these products out to our customer base.
Well, so often certain products are released into the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic that have never been tested in Northeast or Mid-Atlantic. They're tested in Europe. They're tested in...
And their bullet points are all made from that Midwest scenario, too.
And then suddenly they get burned up with rust, or they don't winter over, or, whatever the case may be.
One of our buddies out in Oregon sent in that teff seed there a few years ago, and they show us pictures and everything, how much different it looked.
They looked at like two totally different teff varieties out there, and they were literally identical.
3 of them. Yeah.
They were identical, and they were shocked.
Yeah. They didn't
think things react differently here.
Yeah. Oh, without a doubt. Just our winters alone. I mean, the big one is the cereal greens. It's fun. A lot of these guys are thinking they got some winter hardiness built into it. They might have survived that first winter, but like you just said, I call it the first winter, but it was 75 a few days ago, back down to the 20s this morning, and they're calling for 2 feet of snow next week, and
we're getting 40 degree variabilities in a day.
Yeah, so we're seeing there's certain varieties that might have made it through that first swell. We had good snow cover all year long, and now I go back down and roots are dead. That brings me a good point too. Is just walking your fields. I mean,
I think we all need to do that more than what we do before it's a problem. It's identify the challenge before it becomes a serious problem.
Yeah.
So you don't want to give up 20-30% of your yields of good quality hay field or pasture or whatever the case is. There's no sense in giving that up and missing the whole first coat first cutting timeline, because now is the time to put the seed in the ground. This next month and a half or so. So it's now the middle of March.
Yeah.
It's I prefer to get that in between now and the end of April at the very latest. But a lot of times we're reacting after our first cutting, and now we're trying to overseed. And what happens usually to us in June, July, we get really dry. Yeah. So it's a very, very challenging time at that time for a seeding. So that's when you hear me usually. And at that point, that's when we start recommending just fall seed it. Yep. Yeah, don't waste your money.
As far as kind of go back to the whole alfalfa talk there, what do you see overall in our numbers? Do you think alfalfa? I know it's the average size farm, small farm, and I think it's a good fit for that size farm, and we can dive into that.
I think there's still a place for alfalfa. Period. Right. I think it helps our rotations so much more. Right. So I think part of you and I've talked about this off without the podcast. I think where we're seeing a lot more rootworm in corn and things like that now because our rotations have changed, and we changed them with cereal grains. And rather than having that 3-4 year rotation with another crop like that, and then coming back in, it's definitely affecting that. So now here you are with a below ground package, and we're still putting Poncho 500 on. Sometimes they're putting Poncho 1250 on.
1250 right
and you go, that was supposed to be what controls this. Now we're adding that much more neocide, type stuff to the soil, which is not ideal. Not what we're looking to do. Right?
It's not the movement we want to make.
No, the movement we want to make is try to get back from some of that stuff, but it goes back to the rotations and changing agriculture a little bit to be able to.
Well, I mean, we could dive down a rabbit hole with that too.
Then you get the whole regenerative agricultural thing, which which I think's it's obviously the topics of today's world, and
I just don't know
we
how
build our company, to support that way of thinking.
With the cost of things, our economy, and this is the year we're at the bottom of the barrel in the ag industry across the board.
Inputs are up.
Inputs are up. Yeah, I mean, it's everybody's scratching their head. There's so many orders out there to be made right now. It's insane. We're in March, and a lot of guys still don't have all their acres covered.
Just learn of a farmer that we're putting a quote in for or bid in for right now that 2,000 head of cattle hasn't ordered a pound of seed yet. So it's a different world.
Yeah, I just don't know how you don't start, how this doesn't initiate the whole regenerative push. Don't get me wrong. There's the guys out there that are pounding it down your throat, and they make it seem like it's easy, and I hate to be too honest with it, but a lot of those guys never farmed in their life. They don't understand what the equipment that comes with it and the risk you're taking with it. And they're the kind of the conversations. It's
a lot more scary for the guy that is leasing his ground, that doesn't know whether he's going to keep his ground from year to year, and that guy that also just invested everything he has, is literally millions of dollars in debt to the bank, and now you want to do the regenerative agriculture and add additional equipment or do some of the things like that. It's a lot more challenging for that guy than it is the guy that's inherited a farm, it's inherited ground, doesn't have the overhead cost. They're the guys that are typically the first ones to jump into it, and which is great, and we can learn through those people. But I think there's still the baby steps that need to happen, rather for the typical
realistic steps. I mean, that's the biggest thing. And then when I was in college, I went to for environmental science, and a lot of the professors, that was my biggest argument with them. Number one, we're reading textbooks from back when we did have issues, and with everything under the sun environmentally. But but what's the easy button to push or point towards is farmers, and I got more arguments than not.
Well, especially
with professors
the polluting of the Chesapeake and all that good
right.
stuff. Yeah,
But the moral of the story is, and the reason that I got pretty passionate about it, because for farmers in general, it's their life. Like, they're not leaving to go drive to the city to go work for somebody else, and when they leave there, they're responsible. They can come home and have fun. They're you open the door, they're at work. Like,
typically, farmers want they want to improve everything. They want to improve it both not just for themselves, for the next generation. Right. So farmers, typically, most farmers are thinking about the next generation as much as they are the current.
But yeah, I mean, you're literally telling, these same people would get mad if somebody showed up to their door and told them how to live their life. I mean, that's literally how it is with farmers. And then they think like, oh yeah, guy's out tilling his ground. Don't get me wrong, we don't promote tillage, but at the same time, he has the equipment to go out and till. So what do you want him to do? Turn around and buy
he doesn't have the money to go buy $40,000 no-till drive.
Right. So it really, what it is there's a lot of the industry just bashing the guys not following the whole approach of regenerative farming.
Yeah.
And
so even and let's just break it down instead of saying regenerative farming. Let's break it down to no-till. So if you just did say, okay, no-till loans, well, for one, some guys like to do the no-till because they're not picking rocks every year, depending on their soils. Guys like to do no-till. It's a few added pieces to your planter. Often you're going. You're not tilling the ground. You're not doing all that extra work in the spring. All that's true. Obviously, there's a little bit of a difference in a lot of times, especially when you're starting off no-till, to where you're going to have some yield loss, until you get your soil going and all that type of stuff. But I also am a firm believer that every so often we get hard pans, when we're doing no-till, even with the vegetation. We preach it. We do all this.
That also feeds into you saying right off the bat there with the big farms. The big farms, especially that we'll run into that when you got acres to cover, and there's a lot of times you can't just sit around and wait for that soil to be fit the right way to get out and we know that, So yeah, there you are going to run into some compaction issues.
Yeah.
On the whole no-till now, but what I think
we preach it, right, and we have silt loam soils and on the majority of what we farm, and we preach no-till, we preach regenerative agriculture and all that. But with that being said, we found the need to deep rip.
There's some scenarios. Yeah,
we dipped deep ripped one entire field here last year, and we tried not to. We didn't disturb the surface ground. We didn't vertically till. We didn't do all that stuff, but we did run the deep shanks through there, and then plant our crop in. Following that, and truthfully, it helped a lot. We didn't have those areas where we were where we were starving the way we were previous.
But we also look at it as like starting over there. Build that ground back up.
Yeah, so we're not looking to deep rip it here for the next probably 5 or 7 years, whatever, until we need it.
Yeah,
but the petrometers and all that stuff, there's still a place for all that stuff.
Oh, there's
need
huge
to identify
place.
some of that. But
you can find hard pans. That's
tough for us because we don't have any big iron anymore. We have to hire somebody else to do it. But
I think the to go back on the no-till point. I think a lot of farmers adjusted to it. The downfall to it, I think a lot of them adjusted because they found the easiness that came with it. And I think we're starting to see, and that's my point with the younger generations. They're seeing it too, one way or another. They're starting to see that you need living root system for no-till to actually, thrive. No-till right now is just the easy button because, we don't need all this equipment. We don't need to run over the field 4, 5, 6 times and prep everything, have bigger tractors, bigger everything. You can get away with a lot smaller stuff. And the problem we're seeing now is it's a good step, but that's not the answer. I think where the answer is the whole regenerative approach and to get to that point next is start thinking more cover crops, living root system, a living root in that ground all year long is the way to go with a no-till system.
Without a doubt.
And I think a lot of
and truthfully, I like the approach of zone till.
zone
strip
tillage,
till, whatever you want to call it. But
Yep.
it's that to me that is a great alternative. Because you're still helping the majority of your field. You can do
You're
some
putting all
conventional
your
farming in that.
fertility
You got it
in
in that area of the growth plan.
Yeah. No, I think that kind of helps get the topic going for our next one here. But I think obviously we're in a weird time right now. There's guys getting antsy for their seed and getting out in the field when it's 75 out, and then obviously days like today and it's
earlier
in the 30s.
this week,
and,
when it was warm and late last week, holy cow! The phones were going crazy. People wanting their seed right away. We're sitting back going, all right, let's just calm down just a little bit here.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the extended forecast, and it's not this.
No.
So, and the fact it looks like it's going to be cold all next week as well. So, for a seed company like us, sometimes we welcome that to get our, get everything out, during that time. But
trucks are running right now.
You got it
for sure. But nope, thank you guys for listening in. We'll stop it there. But I guess until we see you guys next time.
That sounds great. Guys, take care. Thank you.